another Middle East war. Thank you. Sean?
Thank you. I'm Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I did my taxes this morning, and that has to be the one that drives me crazy in April. All last week, a parade of generals, politicians, and pundits were on TV or other press talking about Iraq. The discussion raged around, should we surge? Should we stop the surge? Should we continue with the war, or should we withdraw the troops from Iraq? But if you actually paid attention carefully, another thing was occurring. They were actually talking about the country next door, Iran. Iran is a cancer which needs to be removed from the Middle East, claimed the senator from South Carolina. Iran is the biggest security threat to the Middle East and perhaps to the world, claimed President Bush. Iran has insidious intentions in Iraq, claimed the U.S. ambassador to Iraq. As an American, I'm horrified by prospect another war where we have another mess in our hand and next door. As a person of an Iranian heritage, I feel deeply disturbed by demonization that is going on in the media. My fellow Toastmasters, I'm not here to discuss the U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. I'm not even here to talk about the Iranian government, which I strongly disapprove of. I simply want to talk about Iran as a country and its people for just a few minutes. As the Chinese philosopher said, we should know our enemies better than our friends. I'm hoping on passing on some of this information to you as the U.S. citizens. We can either influence our leaders, or even if we decide to go to war, we should be better prepared to deal with the realities of that country. First, brief history. Iran, or as it was known as Persia, has been around for 2,600 years in its roughly the same geographical area. Sometimes smaller, sometimes larger. Throughout its history, long series of invaders have invaded Iran, or it was known as Persia. Alexander the Great, the Arabs who pushed Islam to the land, Genghis Khan, the Russians, and the British. Throughout its history, Iran and Iranian people have been able to maintain their integrity. And that actually has made Iranians to be very proud and highly nationalistic. One important fact to know about Iran is Iran is not an Arab country. It shares the same religion, but its language, its history and culture is very different from all the Arab countries around it. If they invade Iran, we should be prepared to deal with intense nationalism that we will unleash. And they're rallying around the government, which I know many of them dislike, in order to defend yet another foreign enemy. Next point about Iran is its resources. Iran has the second largest oil reserves in the world, the second largest gas reserves in the world, the third largest copper reserve in the world. And I can go on, but you get the point. Our leaders may give us justification about going to Iran, invading Iran. And actually, a few might be legitimate. But let's not get fooled. Controlling or influencing these vast resources is and will be one of the reasons to invade Iran. That's the way the Iranian people will see it, and that's the way the rest of the world will see it, I'll guarantee it. Next, I want to talk about the people. Iran is a country of about 65 to 70 million people. The literacy rate is about 85%. That's one of the highest literacy rate in the world with respect to third world countries. And the statistics has it that by 20 years, the next generation, it will reach the level of industrial wars in terms of literacy. There are 50 universities, with the female population being about 50% of the student body. Females are in every echelon of the society. They are doctors, lawyers, business people, taxi drivers, and firewomen. Don't get me wrong, it's a highly male-dominated society. And there's a lot to be done to improve the women's rights. But it is not Saudi Arabia, where women cannot drive, nor is it Afghanistan, where development is completely backward. It is a fairly educated society whose people are reasonably well aware of what is going on in the rest of the world. And dealing with this population, if we do attack, is an important factor which needs to be considered. My fellow Toastmasters, I don't know where the rhetoric of the confrontation with Iran would lead. I would surely hope and pray that the leaders of the US and that government can sit down and talk their differences. I know for a fact it would be a disaster for Iran, and it would not be that good for the US and the rest of the world. This is Toastmaster.